Namaste and good morning to all of you. The JCC of Greater Columbus would like to dedicate today's yoga class to all Nationwide Children's Hospital employees. Thank you for your unwavering commitment to serving the families who need you most. We appreciate the sacrifices you and your family make to go to work during a pandemic. We appreciate you and the resilience you exemplify. Our hope is that you get from this class calm and release. Namaste. For this class this morning, you may or may not need yoga blocks. They come in two different sizes, depending on how flexible you are through your low back, your glutes, and your hamstrings. You might also need a towel or a blanket, and you may also need a strap or a belt or an old necktie. A mat is optional, especially if you're doing this at home. Throughout the class, I will be coaching several modifications. So the important thing is do what you can do. Everyone has to start somewhere. So please try not to stress over it too much. All right, we're gonna start down on the mat in child's pose. So there are many different varieties of child's pose. We're gonna start pushing the hips back and reaching the arms down to our sides and just relax. Now, if this position is difficult for you, you can take a block and you can set it between your legs and rest on it. You can also take a blanket or a towel and roll it up and put it behind your knees if this is uncomfortable for you. So we start in child's pose, just relaxing, breathing. Ideally, you want to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. To start with, 1 deep breath. Think about filling your lungs and emptying your lungs. And bring your hands out in front of you. Lift up onto your hands and knees. And then push back into child's pose. And lift up and push back. And lift up and push back. Knees can be close together or they can be wider apart. And one more time, lift up, moving to downward facing dog, turning the toes under. Lift the hips and push back. Long deep breaths, fingers are spread wide. Weight is even through your palms and your fingertips, not all pressing into the heel of your hand. And we're gonna alternate bending the knees. So bend one knee and release and bend the other knee and release. Bending the knees and straightening, alternating sides, getting those muscles moving. Remember, if this bothers your hands, you can always lower down to your elbows. And if it's still bothering you, go back to child's pose. All right. Push back one more time into down dog. Think about keeping your abs in tight. Spine is nice and long. Look up at your hands and walk or jump your feet forward to your hands and fold forward. So here's another instance where you might need a block, something to lift your hands up off the floor a little bit so that you can keep your knees straight without hyperextending your shoulders and your upper back. The blocks can go this way, or even this way. And if you don't have blocks, if you have a thick book, that will suffice too. On your next inhale, slowly lift up, sweep your arms out and up overhead. Exhale into a little tiny back bend. Just feel a little stretch in the front of your hips. And on your next exhalation, bend your knees and push your hips back. Coming into a high chair pose. Breathing. On your next exhalation, slowly fold forward again. Use those blocks if you need them. Inhale, lift halfway up, long spine. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, walk or jump your feet back to plank. Upper push-up position. If you need to here, lower your knees down. Remember, this is your practice. On your next exhalation, bend your elbows, try to lower down slowly. Inhale, scoop up, point your toes out behind you. Cobra, which is knees down or upward facing dog, knees are lifted. Remember, the shoulders are down away from the ears, so we're not sunk down into the shoulders, but we're lifting up. On your next exhalation, turn your toes under and push back into downward facing dog. I'm going to change my position just so you can see a little bit better. Downward facing dog. Notice my spine is long. I'm not arching my back. And you can adjust your leg position if you really want to get a stretch down the backs of your legs to push your heels down. And let's alternate those knee bends again. Shoulders are back away from your ears. Good. All right, and push both heels back down to the mat. Lower your knees to the mat. Walk your hands back under you so that your knees are under your hips and your wrists are under your shoulders. And then round your back. So try to tuck your pelvis back, tuck your tush under and round and flat. Round and flat. And we really want the low back to move here. We know that our upper back and mid back can move really well, but the low back is what gets really tight. So abs are in tight, and just think about tucking your tush under and then pushing back. And tuck under and push back. Let's do it one more time. Tuck under and push back, and then push back into child's pose. Breathing. Remember, do whatever version of this pose feels best for you. You can leave your arms at your side. You can really extend the arms forward or let them relax. And these can be together or apart. You can stay up here. Do what feels right for you. On your next inhalation, we're going to lift back up. And again, wrists are under the shoulders, knees are under the hips. Make sure that your knees are at least 1 foot length apart. Right? And we're moving into a bird dog. So we're looking down at the mat, keeping the neck nice and long, and extend one arm on the opposite leg. I like to turn my arm thumb up because it helps to keep my shoulder a little more neutral. Slowly release. Try to put your hand and your knee back in the same spot you picked them up from and switch sides. So it's opposite arm and leg. When that leg comes up, try to push the hip down a little bit. The hips always like to rotate, and then that kind of pushes us off balance. And release. And again. And release. This is an excellent, excellent movement for building strength in the erector spinae, the muscles that run up and down the sides of the spine. Abs and tight. And remember, if you have to start down low, start down low. We all start at a different place on our voyage. Good. Let's do each side one more time. Try to look downward at the mat, extend your neck. And last side. Good work, and push back into child's pose one more time. Breathing. Good. And inhale back up onto your hands and knees. Turn your toes under. And we're going to push back into downward facing dog. Pushing back. Remember, adjust your hands, adjust your feet as you need to. On your next inhalation, look up at your hands. Walk or jump your feet up to your hands. Fold forward. Grab your blocks if you need them. Remember, try to keep your shoulders down away from your ears If your palms reach your mat, great. If they don't worry about it. On your next inhalation, lift up to your fingertips, right? Pull those shoulders back, try to keep your spine long, and exhale forward. And inhale, abs and tight, lift up, sweeping the arms up overhead. Exhale into a little tiny back bend. Inhale, back center, and exhale, fold forward. Good. Now we're going to inhale and bring our hands up behind us into our low backs. And here is where you might need a towel or a strap. If your hands don't really meet very well, or if you have trouble lifting them away from your back, grab that towel or strap or whatever you have, right? Because the important thing is to get the stretch. So we're pushing the shoulders down away from the ears and raising the arms. And breathe. Soften your knees a little bit if having them extended is painful or uncomfortable. And on your next exhalation, release your palms back to the mat. One more time, inhale up onto your fingertips and exhale forward. And inhale, walk or jump your feet back to plank, upward push-up position. Exhale, lower down slowly. Inhale, scoop up, cobra, upward facing dog, and exhale, down dog. And breathe here and feel free to adjust your position as you need to. Remember, you can lower to your elbows if that's more comfortable. Soften your knees a little bit. On your next inhalation, we're going to extend the left leg up to the ceiling. Bend the left knee, rotate the left leg and try to lift it up. Shoulders are staying back away from your ears. And on your next inhalation, bring that left foot forward. It might need a little bit of help, which is fine. We're going to lift up tall. See if you can put your hands on your hips. Bend the right knee. Now, the right knee can absolutely go down to the mat and really lift up tall and feel that stretch right in here on the right leg. Ideally, the left knee is over the ankle, definitely not out in front of it. And I'm kind of pushing my hips forward a little bit, but not letting that left knee go too far forward over my foot or my toes. And breathe. On your next exhalation, bring your hands back to the mat. Inhale the left knee back to meet the right, and exhale back into downward facing dog. And inhaling, raise the right leg up to the ceiling or whichever leg you didn't raise last time. Bend the knee, rotate that leg, and see if you can lift it. The other heel is still pressing down toward the mat. Fingers are spread wide. On your next inhalation, bring that foot forward. Give it a little help if it needs it. Abs in tight, lift up, hands on your hips. Lower that back knee to the mat and push forward just a tiny bit. Adjust the front leg position if you need to. If you need some extra cushioning under that back knee, by all means, double up your mat, put your towel or blanket under it, whatever you need. Good, and breathe and feel that stretch. When we spend a lot of time sitting, these muscles on the front of the hips get so tight. And this is a really good way to stretch them. So the toes of my back foot are turned under so that my toes are down and my heel is raised. On your next exhalation, lower your hands to your mat. I'm lifting that back knee, I'm stepping the front foot back, and I'm pushing back into down dog. Good. So I want to kind of have a longer stance in my down dog here because we're going to come forward into a plank and back into down dog. And forward into a plank and back into down dog. And we want to try to squeeze the quadriceps, the muscles of the front of the thigh. And forward, and if you need to, drop your knees down and back. Let's do it one more time because it's so much fun. And back. Good job. Now, this time, rather than bringing our feet up to our hands, we're going to walk our hands back to our feet and fold here for just a moment or two. Inhale, lift halfway up, try to really lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, take a little back bend. Inhale, back center. And exhale, mountain pose. Ooh, breathe. Good. And inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward, folding. Use those blocks if you need them. Inhale, lift halfway up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, walk or jump your feet back to plank. Upper push-up position. Exhale, lower down slowly. Inhale, scoop up, cobra. Upward facing dog, and exhale, down dog. And hold here. And let's alternate bending those knees again. It can be as fast or as slow as you want it to be. Keep your shoulders back away from your ears. But make sure that you do both legs equally. Legs don't like to be shortchanged. And then lower your knees to the mat. Again, make sure that your wrists are under your shoulders. I'm gonna take my left arm and I'm gonna slide it under my right arm. I'm gonna lower my left shoulder down toward the mat and bend my right elbow and push my hips back toward my heels. And I'm feeling a stretch in the back of that left shoulder. And breathe. Some yoga practices, this is called thread the needle. It's a great stretch for the back of the shoulder. Do try to make sure that shoulder is away from your ear. And then inhale, come back up, and then extend that same arm forward with the thumb facing up toward the ceiling, and we're bending the opposite elbow, we're pushing the hips back, and we're feeling a stretch now down that left side of the back. And try to really extend that arm without allowing the shoulder to pinch up towards your ear. Good. And slowly inhale back up, bring your hand back under you, and we're going to switch sides. So I'm going to take the other arm and pass it under or behind, palm up. I'm pushing my hips back now, I'm bending my left elbow, and I'm dropping my right shoulder down toward the mat, and I'm breathing. And remember, you can take these stretches individually away from your practice and use them whenever you need to. That's the beauty of yoga, or one of them. And slowly inhale back up and extend that arm out in front of you, thumb up. Bend the other elbow, push your hips back towards your heels. Remember, again, if you need to, you can put a towel or a block behind you, either under your tush or behind your knees. Try to feel that stretch down the other side of your back. Breathe. Here, we want to get back to inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose, which helps us to hold the heat in our bodies and allows the muscles to move and stretch more easily. And slowly lift back up to your hands and knees. And one more time, push back into child's pose. Reaching both arms forward, resting because we do have a little bit of work coming up. And inhale up onto your hands and knees. Exhale, turn your toes under. Take one more deep inhalation and exhale back into downward facing dog. Remember, the knees can be soft or they can be extended, but you want to think extend by pushing the heels down and lengthening the backs of the legs rather than crunching your knees. On your next inhalation, look up at your hands, walk or step your feet forward, and exhale, fold. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, sweep the arms out and up overhead. Exhale into a little back bend. Inhale, center, and exhale, arms down to your sides. Stepping the feet wide apart. Try to make sure that the toes point forward, hands on the hips. We're going to shift to each side. So all that I'm doing here is bending and straightening the knees. Hips and shoulders are staying still, right? So it's not this, it's here. Good, and loosening. Good. Now let's go over to the right side. Place your right forearm on your right thigh and sweep that left arm up and over. Breathe. Toes can stay pointing forward or you can turn them out to the side, whichever you prefer. Think about reaching with that overhead arm, which for me is my left arm. And we're going to inhale and come back center. And we're going to switch sides. So bend that knee, forearm on the knee. Toes can point forward or out to the side. Sweep the other arm up and over. And reach, try to keep the shoulder back. Chest is open. Breathe. Good, and inhale, back center, arms down. Make sure the toes are pointing forward. Exhale, forward into a fold. Bring your palms down to the mat, or again, if you need it, use your blocks. And here, we're just gonna bend and straighten the knees. Bend and straighten the knees. And bend, try to make sure that your knees and your toes are pointing forward. The hips are pushing away behind you to protect the knees. Let's do it one more time. Good work. And now, make sure your hands are a little bit wider apart. We're gonna lift the heels, lower them. Lift, lower. Try to let your head just fall from the end of your neck. This could be a little bit tricky, so if you prefer, you can alternate. Try not to grip the mat too tightly with your toes. Good. Let's do it one more time. Good work, and relax. And we're gonna move into a triangle pose, Triconos, starting with the right side. So we're gonna lift up, turn the toes of the right foot out to the side. Bend that right knee. No, actually don't bend the right knee, sorry. Push the hips back to the left and reach that right hand down toward the floor. Reach the left arm up toward the ceiling. This is another instance where you might use the block if you need to. I like to push my hand against the inside of my leg rather than putting my hand on my leg because we want to keep this bottom side of the waist nice and long. And feel it in the inner thigh on that leg. Feels great. And inhale and slowly lift up. Turn the toes of the right foot to face front and turn the toes of the left foot side. Right? Hips and shoulders are facing straight out in front of you. And we're pushing the hips back to the right. And bringing that left side over the left leg, keeping the left side of the waist long. Left hand comes down to the inside of the leg. Right arm up toward the ceiling. Again, if you need your block, use your block. Feel it in the inside of that leg. We always feel it more on one side than the other. Breathe. And on an inhalation, slowly lift up, turn the toes of that left foot to face forward and step your feet back in. Long, deep breaths. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, swan dive, fold forward. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, walk or jump your feet back to plank. Exhale, lower down slowly. Inhale, scoop up, cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale, down dog. And breathe. On your next exhalation, lower your knees to the mat. Come to a seated position. Bring your feet out in front of you, moving into a bridge. Rolling down onto our backs. Ideally, we want the heels to be as close to the hips as we can get them. For some of us, that's pretty close. For some, it's not. Do what you can. Arms can be down by your sides, palms down. If your back isn't that strong yet, palms up or hands off the mat. And we're going to squeeze and lift as high as you can. Give your tush a squeeze at the top and lower back down. And squeeze up so our weight is in our heels and our shoulders, or our feet and our shoulders, never the head or neck. And lower back down. And lift up, and the knees are pointing straight forward over the center of your feet. And think about lifting your whole back up away from the mat or as high as you can. And even in this pose, if you need the block for a little bit of help staying up, then by all means use it. And lower down. Let's do one more time. Squeeze up. And you might feel some in your low back, but you should feel some stretching in the front of your legs and your hips. And lower back down. And pick one knee and bring it into your chest, hold behind it. And straighten that leg as much as you can, but don't worry about it being totally straight. Hug that leg in, holding behind it so that you feel a stretch in the glutes and the low back. And release. And then bring the other knee in and stretch, hold behind it. And let your head and neck relax. Good. Good. All right. And release. And come up to a seated position. You can push yourself up, you can cross your ankles and roll yourself up, whatever's more comfortable for you. You're going to move into a hip stretch, a pigeon. So we're coming up onto our hands and knees. I'm going to take one leg back. I'm taking my left leg back and my right foot forward. I'm walking my right foot across toward the left edge of the mat, pulling my heel in toward me a little bit and lowering my right knee down. You want to try to keep the right side of your hip off the mat and extend the left leg back behind you. And then walk your hands out in front. Again, the block can go under your hip for support, or you might need it out in front of you for support for your head. It's entirely up to you. Ooh. Breathe. Remember, inhale through your nose and exhale through your nose. This is a tough stretch. It's a very deep stretch. On your next inhalation, walk your hands back in. Take that right knee or whichever leg was in front back. Bring the other leg forward. Toe heel that leg. This is my left leg across toward the opposite side of the mat. Bring your heel in towards you a little bit, unless your hips are very, very flexible, in which case you can keep your knee at 90 degrees. Extend the right leg back, and again, try not to sit on that left hip. Keep it off the mat and walk your hands out in front and try to relax. Breathe. We're holding here for 5 breaths. Try to make them nice, long, deep breaths. One more. And inhale, look up at your hands, walk your hands back in. Go ahead and sit on the mat. Extend your legs out in front of you. Right? Try to sit down on your sit bones. The sit bones are the bottom of the pelvis. So if it's hard for you to sit like this with the pelvis upright, if your pelvis goes like this, which is pretty common, you can take your towel or blanket or whatever you have and just tuck it under the edge of your sit bones, and that helps to give you a little extra lift. Right? Try to extend your knees and flex your feet and place one hand on the mat next to you and take the other arm and go up and over. So I'm reaching to the right with my left arm and I'm really pushing down into my left sit bone, left side of my tush, so that it doesn't come up off the mat. And breathing. And inhale back up and release that hand to the mat and switch sides. So make sure you're really pushing your heels out. Feel your sit bones and reach the arm up to the sky and flex over and push that sit bone down into the mat. So I'm flexing to the left with my right arm. My right sit bone is down in the mat. And breathe. And inhale and release. And we're going to take the feet wider apart. Now your feet, your legs may go pretty wide apart. They may not. Do what you can do. Again, if you need to, tuck that towel or a bolster or a blanket under the edge of your sit bones. Try to have your knees and your toes pointing up toward the ceiling. Feel that pull in the groin, the inner thighs. And let's take one hand down to the leg and reach the other arm up and over. And again, don't let that sit bone or hip lift away from the mat. Reaching. Don't worry about how far you can reach. Just feel a stretch in your side and in the inner thighs and groin. And let's inhale up and take that arm that was overhead to the opposite leg and flex up and over. I'm reaching with my right arm and I'm pushing my right sit bone down into the mat. And breathing. And shoulders stay back so they're not blocking your breathing and closing your chest. And inhale back up. And bring the feet together. Pull both heels over to one side. And we're going to lay down, face down on the mat. Palms are under the shoulders. Toes are pointing away behind us. Abdominal muscles in tight, shoulders back away from the ears. And we're going to alternate, lifting the chest away from the mat and lower, and lift the legs and lower. Chest and lower. So when the chest lifts, we're using the arms a little bit, but it's not a push-up. It's working the abdominal and the back muscles. Up, down. And if it's too much to lift both legs at the same time, just lift one at a time. Down and legs. Good. Shoulders stay back away from the ears and legs. And feel that upper back working. Support with your abdominal muscles and up. Good. Let's do each one more time. Chest and lower and legs and lower. Good work. Lifting up onto your hands and knees and pushing back into child's pose. Giving the back a stretch and breathing. And inhaling all the way back down onto the mat. This time we're going to reach the arms out in front. And again, pointing the toes behind. Abdominal muscles in tight, shoulders away from your ears. Chin down. We're going to alternate, lifting arm and opposite leg. Arm and opposite leg. Arm and opposite leg. Now, if your back muscles are pretty strong, you can keep your chest lifted away from the mat. But if you prefer, keep it down on the mat. Opposite arm and leg. Try to be looking downward toward the mat so you're not straining your neck muscles. Make sure you do an even number on each side or the same number on each side. Let's do each side one more time. Up, up. Good work. Bring the hands in, lift up, and push back into child's pose. Feel the muscles in your back stretching. Good. And inhale, back up onto your hands and knees. This time, have a seat on the mat. Extend your legs out in front of you. You can have a little bend in your knees if your low back is a little bit tight. And if you need to, we're going to work our abs. Hands can go behind your legs. We're going to lower all the way back down onto our back for a count of 10. And we're going to try not to get here at 9 and then 10, lower all the way down. So abdominal muscles are in tight, breathing and lower back. 2, 3, hands can go behind the legs if they need to. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good work and relax. And breathe. And we're going to do the same thing sitting up again. If you have any issues with your low back, bend your knees. Or if the abs just are not quite strong enough yet. So we're going to extend the arms and we're going to come up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Relax. Bend your knees, bring them in. Hug them into your chest, round your back, drop your head. Feel it stretch in your back. And sitting up tall, extending the feet out in front of you a little bit further, moving into Navasana, boat pose, relaxing the shoulders, spine is long, abdominal muscles are in tight. So start with your hands behind your knees. Exhale, hinge back until your elbows are just about straight. If you need to, stay here. And then if you can, release your arms. Keep that spine nice and long. If you can, pick your feet up. Knees can be bent or straight. And hold. Breathe. Shoulders back away from your ears. Slowly lower your feet. Hug your knees to your chest. Drop your head around your back. And breathe. Inhaling up tall, we're doing that again. Hands behind the knees, As much or as little bend in the knees as you would like. Exhaling, hinge back, relaxing the shoulders, abs and tight. If you can, release the arms. If you can, pick the feet up. Knees can be bent. Abs are in tight. Breathing. And again, lower the feet. Sit up, hug your knees to your chest. We're going to do that one more time. Remember, do what you can do. And inhale up tall, hands behind your knees. If you need to, don't go back quite so far. Right? Modify it so that you're not straining your back. Make sure those abs are in tight. Here we go. Back. If you can, release the arms. If you can, pick the feet up. Abs in really tight. Don't make your poor quads hold everything up. Good, and one more time, feet down, hug your knees to your chest, drop your head around your back. Make sure that your towel and your strap are nearby and roll down to your back on the mat. Extend your legs. Reach your arms back, point your toes, take a long stretch. So your low back may arch off the mat a little bit for this one. That's okay, we don't mind. Really try to feel the stretch in your abdominal muscles. And release your arms down. Here's where you may need the towel or strap. I'm going to bring the right knee into my chest. Now, stage one is right here. I'm going to extend the right arm out to the side, palm up. Take the left hand to the outside of the right thigh, just above the knee, and bring that knee over and across to the left. Really important, keep the back of both shoulders flat on the mat. Excuse me. And pressing down on the outside of that leg. Feeling a stretch. If you want to make the stretch a little deeper, you can take the towel or some strap around your ankle and extend the leg and bring it over that way. And again, keep the backs of the shoulders flat on the mat. I like to turn my head and look out toward my right hand and really feel that down the outside of that right leg. Breathe. Remember, stretches may be uncomfortable because of the stretching, but they should never send sharp, radiating or knife-like pains. If that ever happens, please stop. All right, and then release that leg back center. If you're using the towel or a strap, release it, lower that leg down, and then we'll switch legs. So level one, knee in, arm out, hand, opposite hand to the outside of that knee and bring it over and across. But try to keep the backs of both shoulders down on the mat. And then level two, using the towel or strap, extending the leg and bringing it straight over that way. Feel that stretch in the outer hip, maybe even a little bit in the IT band. Looking over toward the opposite hand. Breathing long, deep breaths. And inhaling that leg back up and exhale it back down to the mat. All right. Moving into a little bit of work for the obliques, the sides of the waist. Extend both arms straight out from the shoulders, palms up. Call this windshield wipers. Knees and feet together, level one. Feet stay on the mat, knees stay together, and we go side to side. And we may start them quicker and then slow down a little bit and hold them. Level two, knees bent, same thing. Side, center, side. Definitely in level two, we feel it more in the abdominal muscles. Level three is legs extended, right? But the important thing is to make sure that the backs of the shoulders stay on the mat. So pick your level and let's go side and hold there. Try to really keep the knees together and breathe and back center. And lower side. And for those in level 2 and 3, make sure the hips stay still under you. So you're not shifting your hips rather than lifting your legs with your core. And center and side and hold. Remember, if the abs start to fatigue, you can always go down to the next level. And center and side. The backs of the shoulders down and center. And abs are in tight and side. And maybe even a Kegel squeeze, lifting that pyramid in the pelvic floor. And center and side. And center. Let's do each side one more time. You can do it. And center. And last one, side. And center. Good work. Feet down on the mat. Extend the legs. Point the toes. Reach the arms back on either side of your head. If reaching the arms like this bothers your shoulders, then bring them out to the side a little bit more. And lower the arms down to your sides. Bend the knees, bring the feet back in. Cross one knee over the other. So I'm crossing my right knee over top of my left. I'm going to lower my knees over to the right. And I'm going to reach my left arm back toward the side of my head or back over the top of my head. And again, I'm keeping the back of my left shoulder down on the mat and I'm stretching my left side. Breathe. The right arm can be extended straight out from the shoulder or it can be down by your side, whichever you prefer. On your next inhalation, bring those knees back center, lower the left arm, uncross and cross the left knee over the right. Lower the knees to the left. Don't worry about how far they go. As far as you can, keeping the back of the opposite shoulder down on the mat. So my right shoulder needs to stay down and I'm bringing my right arm back toward the side of my head. And I'm feeling that stretch down my right side. And slowly release, knees come back center, feet flat. Do one more stretch to really help to open the chest and the shoulders. So we're going to come over onto one side. It doesn't matter which side. Bring your knees up so that they're in front of your hips and your legs are stacked. Stack one palm over top of the other. The important thing here is to make sure that your knees stay even. That top hip wants to pull back and the top knee wants to pull back. Tell it no. We're going to reach that top arm up and bring it as far back as you can without the knees separating. And it may or may not reach the floor of the mat, and it probably won't. But that's okay. Feel that stretch in the shoulder and the pecs, and breathe, and make sure those hips aren't separating, the knees aren't separating. Good. And slowly bring that arm up and place it back down. And we're going to switch sides. I'm going to sit up and switch sides. And come down to your side. Knees in front of the hips. Ankles are under the knees. So the knees and the hips are at 90 degrees. Stacking one palm on top of the other. And sweeping that top arm up and back behind. And remember, knees stay even. One side is always tighter than the other. This is my tight side. I'm really feeling this. But that's a good thing. And breathe and relax. And inhale and bring that arm back to where it started. And one more time, come onto your back. Let's bring the knees into the chest. And you can roll either below them or behind them. And roll a little bit side to side, forward and back. And if you have the time to give yourself a Shavasana, a final relaxation, please do. Sometimes it's nice to be able to cover up with a towel or a blanket and try to just lay on the mat, arms down by your sides, palms up. In yoga, we call this corpse pose. And just relax. Try to lengthen the back of your head and then turn your head side to side and just relax your neck. And then let your head stay centered. Let your jaw drop open slightly. Maybe put your tongue against the roof of your mouth, just behind your top teeth. Relax your jaw. Let your shoulders drop back into the mat. Try to let your arms relax and shake out your hands if you like. And then just let them relax to the mat. And then contract your abdominal muscles. And then let them just relax. Contract your glutes, the muscles in your tush. And let them relax. Squeeze your leg muscles. And let them relax. And maybe squeeze your toes and your feet. And just let them relax. Breathe. Try to just clear your mind. And hold this position for as long a time as you are comfortable doing so. Remember, you work hard, you deserve it. Namaste, everyone. Again, I thank you for all that you do.